This is Dunn speaking. This is my second official introduction video. May God bless every one of you. Hello ladies and gentlefish, including Tricia, H, Jordan, Nick, Christopher, Cougar, which I am giving out to Cougar because I want him to know this is going to be a telephones in the cabin video. I want him to give me a shout out as well, since I've been collecting telephones recently. Here is the newly re-updated telephones in the cabin as of today, which is June 24th, 2019. Let's get to the caller ID boxes. Starting with the Bell Equipment Sony Core BE-99N, which came from the Family Promise Thrift Store of Washington. The Bell South CI61, which came from the Rusty Hanger. The Lucid Technologies 425, which came from the Family Promise Thrift Store of Washington. The Radio Shack 250 caller ID system, which came from the First West. And finally, the Radio Shack 433903A CID 3903A, which came from the Levy Street Marketplace. Now then, moving on to the quarter trim line telephones, including the quarter trim line speakerphone with caller ID. So let's get started with that. Starting with the vintage ATT210, which came from the Goodwill. The ATT TR1909 with caller ID, which came from the First West. The Bell Phone's Favorite, which came from the Goodwill. The Bell South Products 439, which also came from the Goodwill. Then the Kobe CTP 100, which also was bought from the Goodwill. Then the Connor Phone CID 400, which came from the First West. Then from the Goodwill, I got the Conair Phone CID 402 MS with radio and alarm clock, of course. Then the Conair Phone SW205, which came from the Goodwill as well. Then from the First West, I have the Craig CT502 in hot pink. Then the Electro brand HAC 8032, which came from my first grandmother. Then the Emerson EM2131, which came from the Goodwill. Then the Emerson EM2517 with caller ID, which came from the Goodwill. Then the GE General Electric 29253 GE1-B, which came from the Goodwill, as well as the GE General Electric 29267 GE2-B with caller ID. Then the GE General Electric 29267 GE3-B with caller ID, which came from the Little Bit of Yesterday flea market. Then from the Frogs Flea Market, I got the GE General Electric 29297 G3-A with radio and alarm clock. Then the Lennox Sound PH543 with caller ID, which came from my mom. Then the Motorola S2634A with scanner. It's a pretty versatile tool though, Jordan. If you want to find one like this, you better have to do so, because it is a quarter trim line telephone and a scanner all in one. So, do you want to know how this thing works? Nick, please let me know in the comments box what you think. And I will try to make sure to test it out as soon as possible. Then the vintage Sears 329-344-21550, which came from the Levy Street Marketplace. Then from the Sony IT-ID20, which came from the Goodwill with caller ID. Oops, I meant to say then the Sony IT-ID20 with caller ID, which I got from the Goodwill. My mistake. Then the Southwestern Bell FM1000, which came from the Goodwill as well. Then the Uniden 1260BK with caller ID, which came from the Goodwill. Then the Unisonic 6750, which came from the Goodwill. Then the VTech CD1103, which came from the Walmart. And finally, from the First West, I got the VTech CD1113 with caller ID. Now then, moving on to the next official items plan, which of course would be the corded speakerphones. and corded telephones as well. The AT&T 906, which came from the First West. Then from the Goodwill that Nick has, if I remember correctly, this AT&T 993, which is the one with 2 lines and caller ID. And no, Nick, it is not just a corded telephone. It is a corded speakerphone. Not trying to correct you or nothing, Nick, but I am trying to tell you the truth. Then the Durabrand PH3235, which came from my first grandmother. Then the Emerson EM2646 with caller ID, which came from the Freds. Then the GE General Electric 29393 GE1-A with caller ID, which came from my first grandmother as well. Then the Lennox Sound PH312, which came from the Levy Street Marketplace. The speakerphone part doesn't work anymore, but the telephone still does work to this day, and it is the Lennox Sound PH319, which came from Miss Evelyn. Then the Panasonic KXTS32ATW with caller ID and 2 lines. This one came from the Back in Time Flea Market. And finally, from the Transformations thrift store, I have found this unusual telephone, the Polycom SE-220 with caller ID, which is a 2-line. Here's the more complete version of it now. Oh yeah, not to forget to mention the G-Mark AmpliVoice 50 with caller ID, which came from the Family Promise thrift store of Washington. Ending the corded speakerphones part, now moving on to the corded telephones part. Starting with the ATT Lucent Technologies 135, which came from the First West. And the Automatic Electric Rotary Dial Desk, which came from my first grandmother. And that was it for the corded telephones. Now for the corded speakerphone answering systems, as well as the corded telephone answering system. Oh yeah, not to forget to mention these 2 telephones as well, the LCD touch panels, which of course both of them came from the Goodwill and the Freds. Alright, now back with the corded speakerphone answering systems, as well as the corded telephone answering system. First off, the ATT 1856, which came from the Goodwill. Then from the Rusty Hanger, I got the ATT CO4939, as well as the one that I gotten from Walmart, the ATT CO4940, and then the ATT Sinjay SB6711A base unit, which came from the First West. And not to forget to mention the ATT 1817, which came from the Goodwill. That was it for the corded speakerphone and corded telephone answering systems. Now moving on from 900 MHz to DEC 6.0 eras of every phone brand that I have currently. Especially the cordless telephones and speakerphones. Let's start with those first. The VTech CS6919, which came from the Frogs Flea Market. Then the one that I gotten from Mom is the VTech CS6919-16. That would be it for the cordless speakerphones, except for the VTech CS6519-2 base unit and first handset. And finally the second handset, which both of these came from the Family Promise thrift store of Washington. And now for the cordless telephones. Starting with the GE General Electric 25839 GE3-B, which came from the Goodwill. Then from the Rite Aid Pharmacy, I have the VTech or Uniden DEC. No wait, hold on. The Uniden DEC 1363, which came from the Rite Aid Pharmacy. And then from the Goodwill, I have the Uniden D1364BK. Then the extra VTech IA5877 handset, which was thrown in there for free along with the other Uniden model, which came from the First West. And this one was bought at the Goodwill, the VTech CS6114. Now then, from 900 MHz to DEC 6.0 phone eras of every brand that I have currently with answering system, of course. Starting with this one now, it is a pretty rare find for me, but I found it at the Goodwill. This is the AT&T 9357. Then the ATT E5827 base unit, which came from Miss Evelyn. Then from the eBay, I have the AT&T E1813B. The first handset and main base unit of the AT&T EO52303 model. The second handset. And finally the third handset, as all three of these came from the Goodwill. The next soon-to-be expired model, the AT&T CO82213, which of course both of these handsets in their base unit and the analog base as well came from the Family Promise thrift store of Washita. And then finally from Aunt Deborah, the AT&T TL92328 base unit with the first handset, and finally the second and third handsets. Then the Clarity C410, which came from the Goodwill. Then the GE General Electric 6990 GE1-D, which came from the Goodwill. Then the 25881 EE3-A base unit from GE General Electric, which came from my first grandmother. Then from the Amazon, I have the GE General Electric 25951 EE1-A. Then the GE General Electric 28031 EE1-B, which came from the eBay. And again, another pretty interesting eBay find. This is the eBay's GE General Electric 30522 EE3-A, which of course came from the eBay, as I mentioned. The next ones will be the Panasonic brand. Starting with their batteries. These three batteries that I ordered separately, because the other three batteries were worn out by the time they got to me. So I had to purchase these batteries instead. To this model, the Panasonic KXTG5243, 5.8 GHz giga-range Supreme, as what they call it, with digital answer system, which of course the first handset and main base unit are here. And then the second and third handsets, which came from the eBay. Then the second handset and main base unit is the Panasonic KXTG6321S along with the KXTGA630S handset, which came from the Rusty Hanger. Then the Panasonic KXTG, is the Panasonic KXTG7431B, with, of course, the KXTGA740B handset, which came from the Goodwill. I believe this is the same model that Nick has, if I remember correctly, except it is a two-handset model now. Okay, not to forget to mention the Motorola L705CM corded base unit, the first handset, and finally the rest of the handsets, which came from Sister June Copes, if I remember correctly. Onwards, the Panasonic KXTGD223N, which came from the Amazon. And from the Walmart, the Panasonic KXTG3760M, the same model that Hunter had, and he still has to this day. Now, silly me, it's the Uniden brand. Starting with the EXA915, which came from the eBay. Then the DCT648-3, which is a digital spread spectrum, PowerMax, which of course is the first handset and main base unit, as well as the second and third handsets came from the First West, and they throwed the VTech IA5877 handset in there for free, which I don't have any use for the VTech IA5877 base as of right now, but I will obtain one as soon as I can. The Uniden CEZAI 5698 or CXAI 5698 base unit, which came from the eBay. Then the EXAI 5680, DXAI 5680, which came from the Amazon, which of course is Uniden branded. Then the Uniden DXAI 8580-2, first handset and main base unit only. I'll get the second handset soon. This one came from the eBay. The AC adapter came from the eBay, but this phone came from the Transformations thrift store, and it is the CEZAI2998 or CXAI2998 base unit. The next one that I have down here is the D1780-5, which of course I need to have the 4 extra handsets, charging cradles, and AC adapters for this particular model, which came from the eBay. Oh man, the handset's knocked over. Let me go and try to put it back on here. Hang on a second. It is the Uniden Deck 3280-2 or D3280-2, I better say. This one came from the eBay. And I need the first handset, charging cradle, and AC adapter soon, cause that one's just the second handset. Can't do much about it. And finally, the VTech brand of telephones. The VTech 2568, which came from the eBay. Then from the Amazon, the VTech IA5854, which will soon become the IA5877 base unit, which came from the Amazon, as I said before. Then the VTech CS5121, which came from the Amazon. This one came from the eBay, and it is the VTech CS6124. Then the VTech CS6829, which came from Aunt Deborah. And finally from the eBay, the VTech DS6121. Now that's it for all of those brands. Now for the digital answering systems, as well as the microcassette answering system. The Bell South 1129, which came from the First West thrift store. It is an old school answering system, and it is a microcassette remote analog answering system. The reason why I say microcassette is because it's single. The reason why I say dual microcassette is because it is dual microcassette based. Now then, moving onwards, the ATT Lucent Technologies 1715, which came from the Goodwill, but the AC adapter from the house. The ATT 1717, which I need the AC adapter for it soon. This one came from the eBay. This one also came from the eBay, and it is the ATT 1719. The AC adapter from eBay, but the answering system, the ATT 1722, I got from the Goodwill. When I won the item from the eBay, and it is the AT&T 1725, I did not expect it. However, I got the ATT 1738, which came from the eBay. The ATT 1739, which came from the Goodwill, and the ATT 1740, which I got from the Walmart. Then the Bell South 1195, which came from the eBay. Not to mention the Bell Equipment Sony Core JV500, which came from the eBay as well. Then the Casio Phone-Made TA115, which is very unfortunate, came from the eBay. Then the Casio Phone-Made TA120 with speakerphone, this one came from the eBay as well. Then from the Goodwill unopened, it was the Conair Phone TAD1212 WCSF digital answering system, or the Conair Phone Callkeeper TAD1212 WCSF. Then from the eBay unopened, it was the Conair Phone Callkeeper TAD1220 WCS. And then I am sweating right now, but this is the Conair Phone Infinity XS2510, which came from the First West. Then the Emerson EM1250 I got from the Sweet Repeats. Then the GE General Electric 29868, which came from the Transformations thrift store or the First West thrift store, without the AC adapter, which came from the eBay. Then its counterpart, the GE General Electric 29868 GE1-B, which came from the Amazon. Then of course the one that Hunter07 has, if I remember correctly, is this GE General Electric 29875 GE1-B, which came from the Back in Time flea market. And finally from the Goodwill, I have the GE General Electric 29888 GC1-A. Moving onwards, the Panasonic KX TM100B, which came from the eBay, the Radio Shack TAD 704, which came from the First West with caller ID, and then from the eBay I have the Radio Shack TAD 3808, which Lunar Reviews has the TAD 3888, which sounds similar to this one. So, anyway, moving onwards. Then the Sharper Image V2000S1, which was a rare find for me, which came from the First West. I was hoping they would sell more of these machines on eBay. Or should I say the eBay. Then the Sony TAM100, which came from the Amazon. And then the Southwestern Bell FA970S, which came from the Sweet Repeats. And finally, the Southwestern Bell FA990, which came from the eBay. Now for the mechanical bell ringer. It is the Radio Shack 43175 mechanical bell ringer. I need to do an initial checkout on this ringer and make sure it works. So anyway, moving onwards. Sorry, there will be no more ringing from this buzzer or ringer today. But anyway, I will do it. Never mind about me saying that anyway. Let's try to ring it up. I'll try to do an initial checkout very soon. Now for the last two devices, and they are the wireless base station devices. Starting with this one, right now it's on 3 signal bars, and it is the Straight Talk Verizon Wireless Z723EL base station, which came from the Walmart. And finally, what Nick has similar to this one, it is the Verizon Wireless F256VW, which came from a Deborah. So, alright, that was it for the telephones in the cabin. As of today, which is June 24th, 2019, I hope to see you back here again soon. May God bless every one of you. Thank you for watching my videos. May God bless every one of you. From here in Dunn.